Welcome to After the Amen, the Second Look podcast, where we take another look, a deeper dive into Sunday's message. Is there more we can learn? And how can we put that to work in our daily walk with Christ?
Let's talk about one of the most frustrating questions we all face. It's that little voice that pops up and can just totally sabotage our motivation if we don't have a solid answer for it. You know what I'm talking about, right? You're the unofficial, totally unthanked keeper of something. And it's this exact feeling, this universal experience, that kicks off the idea we're exploring today.
Maybe for you, it's at work. You're the one who always makes sure the coffee is brewed. Nobody ever says thanks, there's no medal for it, but the one morning you decide, not today, suddenly the whole office is in a state of low-grade panic, like a fundamental law of nature has just been violated.
Or, hey, maybe it's at home. You're the person who always takes out the trash. It's invisible work, right up until the one time you don't, and the bin is overflowing. All of a sudden, everyone's a critic. And it's in these little moments that a much bigger question starts to form in your mind.
And there it is. That's the question. It's the real heart of the matter. It hits you when your kindness isn't reciprocated, or when you pour your heart and soul into something and get crickets in return. It's the kind of question that makes you wonder if any of it is even worth it.
Well, the material we're looking at today offers a really powerful way to answer that question. It doesn't just give you a pep talk, it completely reframes the whole problem, shifting our focus from what we get right now to a different kind of harvest.
This verse right here is the bedrock of the whole idea. It's both a promise and a command. And it was written for people feeling that exact same temptation to just throw in the towel. It gets that you're tired, but it points to a future where your effort will pay off.
So, the framework breaks down our choices into two basic paths. See, we're always sowing something with our actions. One path is sowing to the flesh. That's when we give in to the frustration, hold a grudge, feel sorry for ourselves. The other path is sowing to the Spirit. That's when we choose to do the right thing anyway, even when it's tough and nobody seems to notice.
And if this struggle feels intensely personal to you, you should know you are in very good company. This is not a new feeling. Some of the biggest names in the Bible, the absolute heavy hitters, felt this same crushing weight, this same urge to just say, that's it, I'm done.
Just listen to Elijah here. This is right after one of the biggest wins of his entire life, and yet he feels totally alone, defeated, and hunted. His cry just goes to show that feeling isolated in your efforts, even when you're doing exactly what you're supposed to, is a deeply human thing. The temptation to quit is very, very real.
So, what do we do about it? How do we fight that feeling? Well, the first part of the answer is a radical change in your perspective. It's all about changing who you think you're doing it for.
And that brings us to this big idea. Instead of performing for the crowd, you focus on an audience of just one. The moment you start trying to please God and God alone, the whole game changes.
Think about it. The crowd is so fickle. One minute they love you, the next they've moved on. If you're relying on their applause to keep you going, you are going to burn out, guaranteed. But the audience of one, he's different. He sees everything you do, especially the things nobody else does. And suddenly, his grace, not their approval, becomes the fuel in your tank.
And what does this audience of one see? It's not the big, flashy stuff. It's the quiet things. That prayer you said when you were alone. That word of encouragement you whispered that nobody else heard. The meal you made for someone who didn't even thank you. The kindness that got totally ignored. When you're serving this audience, nothing is wasted. Nothing goes unnoticed.
Okay, so that leads us to the second piece of this framework, really understanding what this harvest is all about. It's an absolute promise, but it's one that demands a whole lot of patience and trust.
A huge idea here is that sowing and reaping almost never happen at the same time, It's like farming. Some seeds you plant might sprout in a few weeks, others might take years to become a tree. This framework even suggests some of the fruit of your labor won't be visible until eternity. The point is, don't give up just because the field looks empty today.
And this is so important. The very act of not giving up is producing its own kind of harvest inside you. It's not just about some external reward down the road. Sticking with it when you want to quit is how you grow patience, how you build endurance, how you develop real, deep-seated trust.
And here's the twist that really makes you think. This whole idea flips the question on its head. See, the promise of a harvest is a sure thing, so that's not the variable. The real question is about us. It's, Will we still be out there in the field, still doing the work when that harvest finally comes in?
Which brings us to the final piece that ties it all together. The goal isn't just to have a good start. It's about endurance. It's about finishing the race that's been set out for you.
This right here is the game plan. And notice the keyword endurance. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And the only way to run it is to keep your eyes fixed on the one who not only started the race, but is the ultimate example of how to finish it well.
I mean, just look at these examples. Noah built a giant boat for decades while everyone laughed at him. Daniel kept praying even when it could have gotten him killed. Paul was writing letters to encourage other people while he was sitting in a prison cell. They didn't just start strong, they finished well, because they refused to let their circumstances dictate their faithfulness.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. You have to refuse to let someone else's apathy become the ruler you measure your own commitment by. Just because they don't care doesn't mean you have to stop.
Which brings us to this really beautiful and clever conclusion. For that moment, when your weary heart just asks, why should I even bother? There's a simple two-word answer. Remember El Shaddai.
El Shaddai is a name for God from the Old Testament, and it means the all-sufficient God. And that's the final answer. You don't keep making the coffee or taking out the trash because you're waiting for a thank you. You keep going because God is enough. He is the reason you run, and He is the strength that gets you across the finish line. And in due season, you will reap a harvest if you do not give up.
To listen to this podcast or to the actual sermon referenced, please find us on YouTube at New Hope Baptist Church WB. And be sure to hit that subscribe button. New Hope Baptist Church.
Know, show, grow, and go.